Welcome to Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show with your hosts, Phil Proctor and Ted Bonnet. Phil and Ted's guest today is comedian, actress, author, and famous charismatizer, Melanie Chartoff. And now, your Sexy Boomer hosts, Phil Proctor and Ted Bonnet.
Welcome to Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show, Bunker to Bunker edition. Hi, Phil.
Hi, Ted. I'm actually not high right now. I'm low in my bunker, under the earth. I've got the big lead trap door thing closed.
Oh.
Okay, and I have lots of canned food. Unfortunately, I left the can opener upstairs, so I'm going to have to use my teeth. But I'm a survivalist, so I'll get through this.
When was the last time you showered?
I don't have to. It's just me down here.
Yeah, and it will stay that way.
It's a sure way to keep other people away from you, by the way, if you have to go out in that social, unsocial distancing thing.
Today, we're very happy to say that we have none other than Melanie Chartoff joining us.
And I'll be doing Edith Bunker.
That's right. She embodies many people in her voice career and actually in her acting career as well.
Well, I've known of you for a long time. I think you first came to attention to me during the Fridays series in 1980 when ABC went up against Saturday Night Live with a like-minded format, but it really was different, wasn't it?
Well, it was intended to be a clone. That was ABC's idea. And we defied that because we were all iconoclasts and wanted to create our own things. So within the limitations of that format, we innovated as much as we possibly could with our own characters and our own little absurdist plays and bits.
You did. You had a really interesting cast, too. I mean, that's when you worked with Michael Richards.
Yes, and Larry David was on the show, and everybody was so talented. It was so much fun. I had known Larry David and Bruce Mahler from the stand-up days at the New York Improv Club. And so they already felt like my cousins. So when they were cast on the show, it was my first big thing in Los Angeles. It was very comforting, to have them there. I was given the newscast, which was kind of an isolating position at the time, because at the beginning, I didn't get to interact with all the wonderful other characters. But in time, I was able to evolve some characters of my own and got to work with everybody pretty spontaneously. It was really a fun experience, a wild experience, as you may have noticed, but fun.
You may have come in late, but you really were a standout.
Thank you.
You went from stand up to stand out, and you were an iconoclast.
Thank you, Philip.
I love you.
Larry David was a writer on Saturday Night Live about that time, wasn't he? Or was it after?
No,
before?
that was after. A number of us were invited to be on Saturday Night Live after the demise of Fridays. I was invited over, and so was Larry, to be on the writing staff. And I think he endeavored in the trenches for the first year, didn't get anything on, and quit and walked off the show. And then decided he had done a stupid thing. So the next morning he came back as though he hadn't quit, which storyline was recrafted on the Seinfeld show when George quits his job and walks out in a big huff and then just shows up the next day, hoping he hasn't blown it, and nobody says anything. He just comes back. Larry started to distinguish himself, I think, the second year when he was a writer at Saturday Night Live, and the rest is history. I don't think he really, developed this wonderful misanthropic persona until a little bit after that. And then wearing that new persona, he sort of came out gangbusters. And it's a character he continues to hone and develop, which really isn't him. He's a really sweet man, kind to his friends, playful. But that persona, he's gotten a great deal of mileage out of that. He's the schnook everybody loves to love.
There's a funny parallel with your show of shows starring Sid Caesar, in that the typist in the writer's room with Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner and Sid and various other people was Woody Allen.
Right.
Okay. And he finally, when he finally came out and started doing his own stand-up, he developed a nerdy character.
Yes.
That served him well,
In Mike Nichols' biography, written by 150 of his best friends, where Jack Rollins talks about Mike, but he also talks about Woody Allen hiring him sort of to be a writer for your shows and other shows. And then he would have Woody come into his office and just read jokes that he was writing for other stand-ups. And finally, Jack Rollins said to him, it's hilarious when you just read your own jokes. Why don't you try doing stand-up? And Woody said, who, me? No, I wouldn't know how to do that. And then in a matter of months, he developed his own persona, which
Wow.
is another chapter in history. But he initially did not start out to be a personality or an actor. He was just kind of a geeky guy who loved to write jokes for others.
That's a wonderful story. I want to ask you something. We have one thing in common, which is that I went to Yale in New Haven. You were born in New Haven.
I
Right?
was a townie, Philip. I was in all the Yale Dramat plays when I was in high school.
Oh, wow. How did you get from New Haven to show business?
Well, I got a drama scholarship to Adelphi, and it was on Long Island, and that was close enough for my parents from Connecticut to come and visit and see me in the shows. And from there, I got a BA. But during the summers, because of the proximity of Adelphi University in Garden City, Long Island, to New York City, I could take the train in and audition. So I was in summer stock every summer from the beginning freshman year of college right through to the end. So I already had my equity card and my
Mhm.
AFTRA card by the time I came to New York. I was also on soap operas while I was still in college. I played the waitress on All My Children, and I played a nurse on One Life to Live. I was on Search for Tomorrow. So I was learning a lot while I was still in college.
And I remember the first time we met, you and I, tell me if you remember this. You and I were being interviewed on the radio, maybe at KPFK, I can't quite remember, but you for Fridays and me for Firesign Theater. Okay.
Oh, like
And
in
the,
the 80s, the early
yeah,
80s.
the only thing I regret was I was too shy to ask you out to dinner.
Oh, God, I wish you had. I was starving. I was starving all this year. We worked 13-hour days, 14-hour days, 6 days a week. And the seventh we wrote on that
Wow.
show. We would just never had any time to socialize or do anything. I think anybody on Saturday Night Live felt similarly, that they were on this isolated island, only hanging with each other,
Yeah.
eating when allowed, peeing when allowed, and we just didn't get out much. So I'm sorry. It's not too late, you know.
Well, is Stan okay with that, your husband?
If Melinda's okay with it, we can go. We did meet for dinner last year, the four of us. So we have been at dinner.
Yeah, we did.
Not the same.
How are you holding up?
Well, not that much has changed for me because I've been teaching from home and writing from home. And I've been doing little podcasts, and I've been doing some little films, recording for various venues. So not that much has changed. And my husband and I are able to take walks to visit some elderly neighbors in the neighborhood, and we have a 10 feet apart visit, and we bring them things.
Huh.
And so it does feel like we have some social life. I take walks on the phone with my girlfriends, and we're able to have some very intimate conversations while walking our neighborhoods. And then we FaceTime and show each other pretty flowers or pretty dogs. And
Mm.
nothing is going to return to the normal institutions we had in the past. I think it's going to be a complete wipeout. I think you said the other day, Ted, that it was like a much needed reset that the earth is demanding.
One can hope.
Well, I would say that what you're hoping for is that this becomes the pause that refreshes.
Yeah.
And I've always thought about this reboot as like a kick in the ass to everybody to, shock them into the sensibility of the fact that we are caretakers of the earth. And it's really amazing to me that at this time, which should be a time of great enlightenment, so many unenlightened people are stepping forward and resisting this. It's really a strange and interesting time.
And when you talk about we have to make an adjustment. I mean, I think you're talking first world. I don't know about the other the second and third world folks. My heart is with the folks whose businesses and families are not going to be able to make it through this. And I don't want to go into a dark alley. We should lift out of this because this is the Sexy Boomer Show. But
Yeah, we don't want to put a turd in the punch bowl, as they say.
unless we can recycle it, yes.
We are speaking with Melanie Chartoff on Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show, Bunker to Bunker edition. Getting back to your career a little bit, everybody always wants to know, how did you break through? How did you make it?
Auditions. And I auditioned for various Broadway shows. I would go to the open calls. So it was just try and fail, for many, many years. But I did manage to get into summer stock, and I did manage to do every musical known to mankind, every ingenue and every show. And I auditioned for a Broadway show called Via Galactica, which starred Raul Julia. It was a space age rock musical, music by Galt McDermott, who wrote Hair, the music for Hair. I got the part, and it was a wild kind of thing where we were on another planet. We were escapees to another planet, and there were craters set in the stage with trampolines, and we would leap weightlessly from one crater to another in slow-mo. And I mean, it was just so full of Dadaisms and contraptions and special effects. And it closed in about 2 weeks with a lot of injuries. And yeah, it was like the early Spider-Man saga. I don't know if you recall Spider-Man a number of years
Oh,
ago.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There were injuries galore, and I felt, oh my God, it's Broadway, it's theater, it's going to be wonderful. And it was so inhumane because the show and the concept were more important than the players. It was very clear that the producers were very mercenary. At a certain point, we made the producers get on the equipment every night before we went on to make sure everything was holding, because
Oh,
we were scared. We had hazard pay, but it wasn't going to be enough to deal with the pre-TSD. We were all having pre-TSD. And then one night, one of the, in the flying spaceship at the end, we were all climbing into the spaceship that was going to the New Jerusalem out in the stratosphere. And the winches pulled loose from the ceiling of the new Eurus Theater at 50th and Broadway. And there was this creaking and scraping, and the entire staircase with 30 of us on it crashed through the trampoline crater into the bowels of the Eurus Theater. And people were screaming. Some were injured. My hand was, hurt. I thought I was dead. And then this like white light poured into my eyes, and it was a spotlight. They were doing a search under the stage. And the crew came and pulled us out.
Was that during a performance?
It was during a preview. And,
wow.
The audience got hit with stuff. The orchestra got hit with pieces of equipment. It was quite a scene, and it was covered up until today.
wow.
And then we all walked out for like 3 days until they tested the equipment and canceled some of the special effects before we came back for our final 2-week run.
Wow.
We were sold out the last couple of weeks. I think people just wanted to see what the hell this was and how we survived it. I think we got the worst reviews and the biggest box office losses. I think it was like $1.25 million bust, as opposed to Dude, which was another very reckless musical that Tom O'Horgan had staged a few months before. It was $1 million bust. We were $1.25 million bust. So I don't know how proud I can be of that. Yeah. But I went on. That's why television didn't look all that scary to me after what I had suffered in my first ideal experience.
Well, all I can say is I'm glad that wasn't your closing night.
Or your first big break.
Yes, thank you, boys. Thank you. And then I started doing stand-up, and I got scouted for television, and then I started coming out here to do pilots and things. And then I just started going on more television than theater. There was just so much more here than there, and there was so much, if you'll forgive the mercenary aspects of my motivations, money to be made. And regularity and dependability to be made here. And I was interested in surviving. I wanted to be an actor, but I also wanted to be a career actor rather than having to take typing jobs and other things to survive.
What would you say was your breakthrough here?
Well, I was doing guest star roles on things, but Fridays was my first series.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was asked to do Saturday Night Live, but frankly, I wanted to be an actor, and I wanted to be in something longer than a sketch. That was my dream and goal.
Good for you.
That was a big decision for you to make. That was brave.
I was so burned out. I think Michael Richards and I both felt like we were damaged, and we just could not go on for a while. We had to just hide and go to therapy and get ourselves sort of cleared.
We are speaking with Melanie Chartoff. We'll be right back.
Shoplifters, you're getting away with value.
Listen to what Mrs. G86T91 of Honor Farm, Missouri says about value at Shoplifters.
I walked away with over $130 worth of hams in my pants, and it only cost me $50 in 60 days.
Shoplifters, you're getting away with more food.
This week's special squirrel squares from Road Ready Flat Snacks. Velcro macaroni sticks to the outside of your ribs, and stupid Belgium waffle hats.
Shoplifters, we give you a bigger head start.
Remember, There's no long lines at our checkout counter because there are no checkout counters. We just follow you to your car and read you your rights.
Shoplifters, the market that puts you away.
Visit our 7 convenience stores in King's Nose.
You're listening to Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show. To hear all the Sexy Boomer Show episodes and get your hands on our Sexy Boomer bumper sticker, visit sexyboomershow.com. Look for Sexy Boomer Show on Twitter and Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast right now by clicking the subscribe button in your podcast player. Back to Phil Proctor and Ted Bonnet and their special guest, lovely comedian, actress, author, and charismatizer, Melanie Chartoff.
You're listening to Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show with Phil Proctor. I'm Ted Bonnet, and our guest today is Melanie Chartoff. Melanie, thanks so much for joining us.
I'm having a blast.
Now, listen, your class.
I teach charismatizing improvising, which I use for pros and non-pros alike to make them more stellar in their public presentations. So I'm doing that one-on-one on Skype. People who are politicians, who are psychologists, religious leaders, people who want to make themselves more compelling on camera, which is so essential now that we're on Skype and Zoom, who want to work on their relationship to microphone and camera. So I work privately with people. People can reach to me at playdate444@gmail.com. And they can go to my website, charismatizing.com, if they want to learn about this. And while they're stuck at home, do some work on their public presentations.
Charismatizing.
Yes, charismatizing improvising. It's an approach which isn't about being clever and pushing. It's about working emotionally and from your essential presence and truth. To connect at the visceral level with other performers, so that a lot of the comedy isn't as verbal as it is emotional. So it's good for actors. I have a lot of psychologists of good name who study with me because they want to be the crazy ones sometimes, and a lot of them are very gifted. My husband's a shrink, and he takes the class. And seeing therapists get out of their sit down and question role is so wonderful. To see them being nuts and playful is really fun.
Because they just have to sit and listen, be measured, and offer advice, but they're absorbing all this angst all day long, now more than usual. And I just wonder, what do they do?
Yes.
Does primal screaming work?
Well, I think Reichian and primal scream were a way of catharting, and I sometimes have still gone out to my car. I was in Reichian therapy for a number of years, gone out to my car where I feel the ultimate sense of privacy and have a good bellow from time to time. So I think it's a great tool. I don't think it's the end all for therapy. You still have to put yourself back together and understand why you're perhaps projecting or overreacting to certain stimuli during these unfortunate times. But the other thing I'm doing, boys, is I've written a book. It's called Odd Woman Out. It's about this particular woman who was kind of fragmented until she put herself together. So it takes place over, the last half of the last century and the first 20 years of this century. And it's a very kind of heartbreaking and hilarious story of my evolving from being more of a performer than a person into a happily married wife and stepmother now. But a lot of people you may know are in it, all mentioned in a nice way. I was felt up by Henny Youngman, though. I think I should let you know about that anecdote that is in there. May he rest in peace.
That's quite an image.
I know, but this is before the Me Too movement. There were some interesting incidents with some people you might find fascinating back in the day.
In the old days, his name was Henny Youngman, wasn't
it? It should have been. It should have been. So anyway, it's funny, it's hilarious, and it's very educational for people that want to know what it was like being in theater in the 70s and 80s in New York City, and then being in television out here in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. They would learn a lot. And just understand what it's like to go from nothing to celebrity and having money in a very short time. And what an odd phenomenon that is for all of us who have been through that.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly nobody knows. At one moment, nobody knows you. And then suddenly everybody knows you.
Mm-hmm.
How did it work for you?
Well, I didn't mind it. I didn't feel any downside from it, really. I mean, I don't know about you, Philip, but it was fun. I was getting free shows and free tickets. I think it only got a little scary when people started following me home from the studio and some attorney got my home address from the DMV and started showing up with flowers. And I had to threaten to get him disbarred. It got a little creepy in the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
And then I understood, that I needed to move. I needed to change my phone number. I needed to protect myself. I used to stop at the 7-Eleven on Sunset Boulevard on my way home from the ABC studios on Prospect in Los Feliz and ask the hookers if there was anybody on my tail. I go into 7-Eleven. They go, no, you okay, girlfriend? You just go on home. No, nice tights you got on. You got some nice tights on there. You okay, girl? You just go on. And so they watched and they took care of me for a couple of years there. It was kind of sweet.
I had a slightly different experience. The thing with me was I felt so comfortable on stage. We used to do Gilbert and Sullivan productions when I was in grade school, and I was a boy soprano, so I played the female roles. I was Phyllis in The Pirates of Penzance, for instance, and I felt totally at home and totally comfortable performing on stage. So it was just from there on, it was like, well, I got to do this. But I wanted to be educated, so I took a little side trip into that. But when I had my success with the Firesign Theater, it was voiceover. So nobody really knew what I looked like. Right. So I could have a degree of anonymity. And yet if somebody said, are you Phil Proctor of the Firesign Theater? I would get a nice, response from people.
Yeah.
It was only when I did a thing they did a feature on me on about Sunday in New York in Look magazine when I was doing a soap opera called Edge of Night. And I got onto a train commuting, I don't know, to New Haven or something. And almost everybody on the train was reading Look magazine. And after that, people would come up to me and say, do I know you?
Wow.
That's as bad as it got.
Oh, that's wonderful. Didn't you just love that? That was so much fun.
It was fun. It is fun to be recognized, and it's especially when you've been doing something that you love and you feel good about it.
Yeah, and it's wonderful when people are inspired or entertained or touched by what you do. That's wonderful. But when they want a piece of you just because you have notoriety, that's really creepy.
That's the scary part. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets really scary where they want, your underwear, they want you to autograph some odd thing, and that's got real nasty attached to it.
Well, luckily nobody's ever wanted my underwear.
I'm so sorry. I'll ask for it after the show.
Thank you.
I think that being on Rugrats, and I'm sure Philip would agree, for me was just a wonderful kind of fame because we touched so many people's lives. We were in people's homes. We babysat their kids. We have been a factor in so many families' lives for so many years. And I know that there are people that tell me that without Dee Dee Pickles' voice, which is not my voice, it's a voice I put on for the role, they wouldn't have gotten through grade school because their mothers worked. They were super women. They were never home, and they had a Spanish-speaking nanny. So that Dee Dee Pickles' voice became the voice of their mother until she came home.
Oh.
So that kind of stuff, it's just warmed my heart. We had such wonderful characters that we played on that show.
What were the other characters that you did?
I played Dee Dee and Minka. Dee Dee was the mother of the Rugrats, and Dee Dee was Dee Dee's mother, who was from Russia, the old country. And then Philip played Howard
DeVille, and then lots of villains and other, character voices in the thing. But I just have to say, I totally agree with you. It has been so lovely.
Yeah, that was a wonderful kind of fame.
Yep.
You told me that you were in Ireland in a post office and there was a picture of Howard like on the wall. Wanted, dead or alive, or something like that.
They were selling stickers, metallic stickers about 8 inches long, and of a lot of the characters. And I bought like 10 of me, and then I thought, well, when I get to Dublin, I'll go into a toy store and I'll buy a whole bunch of these and give them to everybody when I get back to America. And no, it was just in this one little post office. That was it.
Wow. They will linger on, in rerun. Ka-ching, thank you, for many years, and the specials that we did.
Mm-hmm.
We made the show so long that when they did a spinoff called All Grown Up, they put streaks of gray in our character's hair.
And Dee Dee was in menopause, so she had a pot belly, and her pointed red hair was now drooping a little bit. She had a big belly, and they had me do my voice deeper. So instead of like this, it was more like this. So yeah, so that was really fun, and I'll be glad about that forever, and let on to the next generation. I hope they make something really wonderful out of it.
Getting back to your charismatizing,
Yeah.
do you find need for social smoothing, if you will, in the digital age? For example, when people text, often because there's no organic connection, there's no facial tics, very often messages are misconstrued, and people are thinking they've received a hostile message when in fact it wasn't intended to be that at all.
I guess that's what the emojis are for, and those little,
Mhm.
acronyms like LOL. I guess that's supposed to soften it. But yeah, I would think it had a tone problem. So it's mostly informational rather than emotional. Certainly leaves a lot to be desired. And I was working with a lot of young people who didn't know how to interface, only how to interscreen.
Ah.
People were sending me their kids just to get them how to respond to get them to respond in the moment to another person talking to them. But there's a kind of a geekiness. I think geeks are people that are more aroused by machinery than by human contact. And I've had a lot of those when I was teaching in Silicon Valley. I had a lot of famous, rich, super geeks studying with me, just learning how to deal face to face, torso to torso, without holding a machine in front of them.
I was wondering that if this generation that is wired differently because of the individual screens and the interconnectedness electronically and the isolation that can create,
Mm.
do you think that we're going to be more isolationist by the end of this?
I don't think it's going to be that way for young people. I think they're going to start to crave interfacing. I think they'll move to Zoom and FaceTime and get off the texting a bit. I'm finding kids are face to facing. I don't have any little kids in my life, but I'm finding there's more of a craving for group video meets. I certainly don't think texting is going to be adequate for kids anymore. My God, to be a teenager right now, not be able to hang out with your friends.
The kids need to read that new book that's out now called The Primal Screen.
Really?
No. That could be your next book. I want to ask you, can people pre-order the Odd Woman Out book?
Not yet, but it'll be on my website, charismatizing.com or melaniechartoff.com when it is. I'm going to be excerpting pieces of it on there.
Mm-hmm.
For young people, I have written a poem about the corona. I don't know if you have time anymore.
Oh, please. You're listening to Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show with Phil Proctor. I'm Ted Bonnet, and our guest today is Melanie Chartoff with poetry.
This is just a kind of a cautionary tale for young people. We raised your folks to protect their hearts, to ask lots of questions before a love starts. We tried to keep them the marrying kind, told them look close before love drives you blind. Then condoms, diaphragms, birth control pills made our kids think they could beat all our ills. We warned them to be careful about holding hands. Now you girls say hello and you stick out your glands. And today the stakes are higher still. You guys get too close and one cough could kill. So before you get took by some date's great look, take some smarts from your wise old great grandma's book. Is this person worth the germs? Is this person worth the germs? What's the risk in getting kissed? Is this person worth the germs? Mr. Charm saw no harm in kissing up Carmen, who he met at the beach yesterday. Now here's what he'll do: go to bed with a flu and waste his whole summer away. Is this person worth the germs? Is this person worth the germs? Is Mona worth corona? Is this person worth the germs? Forget STDs. It's the viruses, please, that lie beneath all of the radar. Bob may like her now, but from his feverish brow, he'll find lots of reasons to hate her. Unless she is a nurse, things could go from bad to hearse. So he should have called a doctor before he went and fogged her. Beth, salmon's full of mercury and chicken salmonella. Eating cow can drive you mad, so before you kiss some fella, think of the germs. Sure, condoms stop a lot of ills and pills the morning after, but one reckless small infection can end your whole life chapter. Today, the wisest tactics of full body prophylactics. Just stay lovesick or get toxic from your forehead to your coccyx. If your gonads have been nomads and you've survived this long, just abstain and sing this refrain from your old great-grandma's song. Is this person worth the germs? Is this person worth the germs? Is Cyrus worth a virus? Is this person worth the germs? Is this person worth the germs? Is this person worth the germs? Is Rufus worth the mucus? I'm sorry, it gets worse and worse. Is Shep worth the strep? Is Lydia worth chlamydia? Is Sherman worth the vermin? It goes on, but you get the gist. It was actually written.
Oh, that's wonderful.
When I saw those kids on the beach in Florida, I thought, oh my God, what are they doing? I understand the hunger to cavort, but, it seemed like it was a very risky move.
Oh, man. It was in the 80s when sex equaled death. Now,
Hello.
proximity equals death.
Yeah.
I know.
Hugs equal death. Wow.
Is there a particular story in the book that sort of sums it up as to what you experienced?
Well, in the 80s, I was driven so mad by the contrast between having no intimate friends or family here and being impersonally adored by everybody else on the street, that it kind of made me a little nuts. And I actually was told to go visit Muktananda and this ashram, which was an old nightclub in the Catskills, which had been converted to a temple. And it talks about my adventures there, trying to get back in touch with trusting people, trusting strangers, trusting myself, understanding why the people I loved who loved me most seemed to be most resentful and uncomfortable with me. My mother actually glazed over talking to me. She seemed intimidated. It was just a really alienating phenomenon. So I have a story there, and it's called My Obscured Third Eye.
Boy, looking forward to that very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
This was absolutely delightful, Melanie. Every time that we spend time together, I learn more about you and your fascinating life and career. I'm so happy for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Philip. Always great to spend time with you in any medium.
Melanie, it was really a pleasure to meet you finally.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you so much for joining us in the bunker.
A pleasure.
Stay healthy.
Take good care. See you on the other side.
Love you very much. Bye.
Bye, Philip.
Gee, I hope by the other side she just meant after the crisis is over.
I think so. It's just so nice to hear people with their spirits up.
I've always loved her, but my God, she's really shining. She's just doing great.
We will be back soon.
Gesundheit.
It's been a pleasure as always. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Ted. And remember, cough into your elbow. Like that.
You've been listening to Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show, featuring Phil Proctor and Ted Bonnet and special guest Melanie Chartoff. Shoplifters Market was written and performed by the Firesign Theater. Music by Eddie Betos and the Nervous Brothers. I'm A. Ernest Guy. Join us for the next episode of Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show, produced by RadioPictures.com, the makers of fine podcasts for boomers. Okay?